Hello there guys, my name's Mark and this is Legit Wrestling and here is our Raw review. Let's dive straight into our very first segment. The show begins with Roman Reigns coming out first to a very 50-50 reaction from the crowd. Roman says his announcement for SummerSlam, where he was planning on taking on whoever the Universal Champion may be, that may be Samoa Joe or Brock Lesnar. Now, I simply would prefer Brock Lesnar, but let's crack on with the rest of the show. He then insults Samoa Joe, saying the guy called Joe, and claims that he is a number one contender because he's the big dog and it's his yard. So out comes Samoa Joe, of course. Says Roman's never beat him and he is the next Universal Champion come Great Balls of Fire. Roman says Joe will never be Samoa Joe to him. Simply quoting Paul Heyman from last week. And Joe replies with a tremendous headbutt. They brought to the outside. Reigns goes into the barricade, back into the ring. Joe goes for the Coquina clutch. Reigns fights out of it very well, I may add. Hits a Superman punch, and Joe rolls out. Very good opening segment. Didn't go too long. Roman's promo was pretty dry, pretty dull, as I think that's been a problem for quite some time now. I think a lot of people say he needs to work on his mic work, but he's been there for so long. How much more can he work on it? So later on, just after this segment, after we come back from the ad break, Kurt Angle has announced that the match will take place tonight. Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns, and we'll move on to that a little later on. So we move on to the next segment. We have a match between the Hardy Boys and the Club, Gallows and Anderson. The match starts pretty quickly. The Hardys start really quick tags, working on the arm of Anderson. It then cuts to Cesaro and Sheamus, who are watching the match backstage. Of course, they've got a match coming up at Great Balls of Fire once again. Very good feud there. I am enjoying that. Poetry in motion comes into play. The tables turn pretty quickly. Beat down on Jeff. The crowd really do get behind the Hardys. Not quite the nostalgia trip from WrestleMania. The crowd are very much hot on them, as they always have been, especially Jeff. We move on. Jeff goes for the Whisper in the Wind. Gets cut off by Anderson. Very well played. Bit of a sore bump, I think, there from Jeff, but he soldiers on as always. They keep teasing the hot tag. They keep cutting it off. Gallows gets in. Throw Jeff Hardy into the corner. Jeff fights them both off. Up he goes. Double Whisper in the Wind. Absolutely gorgeous. Bit of a sore landing. He didn't quite catch him. It's pretty much a solid back bump from up there. Gets a hot tag. Matt clears the house. Some heel tactics from Gallows and Anderson delaying the pinfall. But they get the Boot of Doom. And Matt Hardy gets a very close kick out. But, don't want to weaken your finisher like that, Gallows and Anderson. Maybe shouldn't have hit it. Jeff Hardy tags himself in after a twist of fate from Matt. Hits a Swanton. 1, 2, 3. Very good match. Good solid matchup. Gallows and Anderson, bit of a struggle recently once again. Even their tag team run was pretty poor, so it's sad to see that because they were so big in Japan. The Hardys absolutely solid, very good in the ring. Matt still looks a little bit slow. I've said that from day one, but Jeff looks like his old self. But we move on. We go into the Shattered Dreams segment for Goldust. Very old school Goldust segments. I'm absolutely enjoying these promos. Cutting them on R-Truth, of course, which is a bit disappointing because I'm not a big R-Truth fan at all. He calls out R-Truth for next week for the debut of his latest motion picture production of The Shattered Truth. I'm quite sold on Goldust. I really enjoy these old school promos, as I said. He's going back to his original phase, and yeah, they're very good, very dark. They don't drag on too much, which is always good. So we'll see what happens next week between him and R-Truth. Next segment on the show, Elias Samson is in the ring, and he asks the crowd, of course, as he always does, to walk with Elias. It's his usual shtick. Begins slagging off the town he's in. He's wrote a song, asked him to hold their applause until after the song, but then realises he needs his guitar tuned, so he begins tuning his guitar, asking the crowd to be quiet, which they already are. It was very awkward. I think he was hoping to get some heat by tuning the guitar and taking his time, but didn't go on for nearly long enough for the crowd to even react to it, and he was asking the crowd to be silent, which of course they already were. It was a strange segment. It would have been good if the crowd were into it, but I don't think he's that over yet. He's not been around enough, which is a shame. But out comes Finn Balor to lighten the mood. The crowd, of course, pop as they always do. Finn's had a little bit of a strange run recently. He's not been in the mix too much for anything after the pay-per-view. So out he comes, has a little bit of a stare down with Elias Samson. Elias leaves the ring, and we find out he has a match up next with Bo Dallas. So we come out of the ad break, and Bo Dallas and Finn are in the ring. Bo attacks Finn before the bell, very, very heel act there. A lot of shouting from Bo, which is strange from him. I know he's very vocal in the ring, but a lot of weird shouting and almost gimmick infringement with the ha ha chants of Akira Tozawa. Crowd barely react at all. The referee makes sure Finn's okay, gets him up into the corner, rings the bell. Bo goes in hard once again, beating him down. They go to the outside, throws Finn into the barricade, and actually hits Finn with a really brutal looking knee to the side of the head. Get back in. Finn gets to come back on, really aggressive stomps with the ropes. Up he goes, down on the face. Very, very good. Finn then takes Bo to the outside, throws him into the barricade, runs him round the ring into the barricade. 3 times, I believe it was. Back in the ring, hits a sling blade, big drop kick into the corner, coup de grace, 1, 2, 3, finished. Not a bad match. Wouldn't say it was a squash match, but just about. It was didn't have much purpose, just to fill time, and really forward what seems to be a feud going forward with Finn and Elias, which we'll talk about more later on. We then go to the announce table, where Corey Graves is getting word in his ear to go backstage, so he gets up and walks away, and it's also very awkward between the commentators. But Michael Cole moves on to talk about the new WWE game, WWE 2K18, released in October, I believe. I don't have the date written down. But the cover star this year is Seth Rollins, a very, very good trailer video, exclusive to the show. It was very, very enjoyable. It was somebody in a mask going through what looked like a WWE warehouse, smashing up old memorabilia, old titles, masks and such. One of Triple H's headgear from WrestleMania is melting in the sun, in the heat, of the fire. All very, very good stuff. If you haven't seen it already, I do advise you go check it out. And we head back to Kurt Angle on the phone in his office, where Corey Graves comes in and says to Kurt, I'm sorry you didn't have a good Father's Day. And Kurt, they're shaking hands, and Kurt pulls his hand back, almost in shock as to how Corey Graves would know anything about this. And Corey says, don't worry, I received the same text as you. Now, this has got us all very, very intrigued, me especially. I am really enjoying this whole segment thing they're having at the minute. It's very, very intriguing. Something new, something fresh. Corey's a relatively new character in terms of on TV. Obviously, there's commentary, but when you've got a guy going backstage and it's segments, it's a bit intriguing, yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes. I thought it was part of the Big Cass and Enzo storyline, but it seems like that's not fully played out yet in terms of what we were expecting. So we'll talk more about that later on as well, as that really unfolds today. So in comes Enzo and Cass. They're irritated that Kurt Angle hasn't done a lot regarding the search for people who are attacking Cass and Enzo, which does unfold fully in this show, and it's very, very interesting indeed. So Big Cass says he thinks it's Big Show, Enzo says he thinks it's the Revival, and Kurt says he's going to round up everyone and get them to the ring and find out. He promised he would find out who did it tonight, so that was all very intriguing at the time, and it unfolded really, really well. So we will move on to the next segment quickly. The next up was Seth Rollins coming out to talk about being on the cover of the new game. Talks about games of past, cover stars for all the sports games, American stars, I assume, Peyton Manning being one of them, and how proud he was to be on it. He also spoke about his past and how he turned on the Shield, and he had a lot going for him when he cashed in, or as a crowd would say, sold out. And he wants to just thank the fans, and he was honoured that they gave him a second chance, and the game cover is not for him, it's for us, it's for everybody. It was our cover, was I believe the right line he used. And all of a sudden, Bray Wyatt up on the screen, cutting another impassioned promo with loads of riddles inside. And I believe he said Seth was vanity. Always a good promo, good delivery, but the meaning sometimes lost, and it was again. Hope this isn't another feud that Bray Wyatt just goes on and loses and then moves on to someone else. It's very much back to old ways after his title run and the loss at WrestleMania. So he comes out to the ring, does the whole entrance stick, the lights are down, the buzzards are in the crowd, blows out the lantern, light comes up as he's on the outside of the ring. Seth Rollins takes a big dive off the top turnbuckle. It seemed like they bashed heads when they collided. Bray Wyatt was really feeling his mouth quite a lot as if he felt blood in there. I didn't really see anything, but Seth Rollins had quite a deep cut on his cheek. So it looks like they've maybe clashed heads. I thought he maybe hit the lantern at first, but the lantern was far too low down. Yeah, it looked like a sore one, but I'm sure it's nothing major. They'll move on pretty quickly from that. And that was really it. Seth Rollins walked to the back, and it looks like they're setting up a match for Great Balls of Fire. We'll quickly move on. There's nothing much to say about that one. Brock Lesnar and Samoa Joe have a little promo video in there, and have a bigger one later on, basically reviewing the whole Paul Heyman segment a couple of weeks ago and the brawl last week, which is all very, very good stuff. And I mean, I'm sold on the match alone, never mind the promo videos. I don't need any promo videos to tell me to watch this match. It's going to be absolutely off the chain. Two absolute badasses, trading blows, brawling, and I'm really looking forward to that as well. Finn Balor then has a backstage interview asking where he goes from here, what's next for Finn Balor. He said he was disappointed in his pay-per-view matchup in the Fatal 5-Way. He's then asked predictions on tonight's match for Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns. Talks a little bit about both competitors, and then he's jumped from behind by Elias Samson. It looked like they were going for this angle anyway, and I'm not surprised we got it on the same night. Elias beats him down and says, "Don't you ever upstage me again." And then he walks away. Devon Dudley, actually, who's now a backstage agent, but not a lot of people know that. He's the one that came into the fray shouting for medical attention, and he got a bit of a pop. The crowd tend to see who he was, and he goes, "Oh, there's Devon." You had the crowd having a little bit of an uplift there, but apart from that, good segment, and we'll see where that goes next week. Next up, we had a cruiserweight matchup: Akira Tozawa versus TJ Perkins. Quite a lot in this one. Both competitors get to the ring. Titus O'Neil comes out and decides that he's going to give this match more hype, I believe the word was. He introduces both competitors, giving Akira a much bigger, grander introduction. So they get on with the match. It's pretty standard cruiserweight stuff. It's very strange for Tozawa. He's always had people chasing him since it came to the WWE. Obviously, Brian Kendrick wanted him to be his protege. He didn't want to do that, and now Titus wants him to be in the Titus brand, and doesn't seem too keen on that either. But then halfway through the match, which was strange, Neville comes out. He goes to the announce desk, says that he's here to watch Akira Tozawa because Titus has been saying that he's the next cruiserweight champion, so he's out to watch. So he sits up at the announce desk without the headset on and just watches the match. It turns out a pretty good match. TJ Perkins goes for some sort of gut buster, looked more like a ball buster. It's sort of inverted, looked pretty strange. Tozawa hits his fantastic senton bomb off the top. Looks pretty good, a lot of height. Looks pretty sore on the back if he doesn't connect with it properly. But then 1, 2, 3, Titus comes into the ring. He plugs his match later on. Him and Apollo Crews are going to be taking on Sheamus and Cesaro, which of course we'll talk about. And then Neville stands up and says that they have to be careful, do not insult him, because Akira Tozawa will be annihilated. And Titus O'Neil cracks one of the best lines I've heard him ever say, and he says, "Your little Neville level will be annihilated by the power of Tozawa." It was absolutely fantastic. Tozawa looked a bit confused, as if, Titus O'Neil's picking a fight for him and he doesn't really want to align himself there. But he's doing very, very good at being confused about the whole situation. But he doesn't speak very much, which I think is quite comical. But it's all very, very good. I'm loving the Titus brand. Titus O'Neil's got a good new look about it. It's just a shame the crowd don't get behind him as much as they could, because charisma-wise, he's got a lot, but in the ring, he hasn't got a hell of a lot. He's not that inspiring. But good luck to this whole Titus brand thing. I hope it gets over, and I hope it does well. We then have a very small segment with R-Truth accepting Goldust's request his invite to come to the debut of his new picture next week. Very, very flat promo sort of video, trying to mock Goldust's sketch. It was pretty poor. Not, as I said, I'm not a big fan of R-Truth anyway, so I was never sold since he started speaking. So we'll move on pretty quickly. Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas are backstage talking. Axel saying he always believed in him after his loss tonight. And The Miz comes in. The Miz says, talks about them being on the set of one of the Miz's very, very fantastic, of course, A-list films, and how they were stars then, and now they're falling to nothing, and they've asked them to join him and become in his entourage, I believe the name was, and he just leaves them to think about it, and that unravels a little later on. Next up, we're getting ready for a fantastic match, and this is something I've been going about for quite some time because the psychology in this match was absolutely fantastic. I loved every second of it. We start off with Joe getting interviewed backstage. Charlie Caruso asks him, of course, how are you preparing for Reigns? And he says, pretty standard heel stuff. Reigns should be preparing for me. He's never beat me, and in the show, a clip of Samoa Joe's debut match against Roman Reigns, which of course he does win with the Uranage. So he comes out, Reigns comes out first, Joe comes out, and a pretty slow pace to start. So it's a fantastic match in the end. Very good stuff. They take turns at rolling out to avoid the big move. They battle on the outside a little bit. Reigns teases the drive-by at some point. Joe gets out of the way, but then Samoa Joe avoids a Superman punch, rolls outside, and Reigns hits a sort of drive-by. It was sort of other way around. He's on the outside. Joe's on the outside, and he takes a pretty much flat back bump onto the match, but looked pretty sore. He didn't cushion that very well at all. Get back in the ring. There's some fantastic work in here. A Superman punch from Roman Reigns gets caught in the air. Look, he was going to go for a spine buster, but he hits an inverted atomic drop, which was greatly done. Fantastic timing. And then the other way around, Roman Reigns, Joe's going to get him up for a Uranage. He fights it. They're battling for strength. Looks like Joe's going to get him up. He gets him just off the ground, and Roman Reigns whips it into an arm drag and hits a Superman punch off the back. Fantastic, quick 1, 2, kicks out at 2. It was just such a great match, and then they were teasing the Coquina Clutch so much because the whole thing is now if Joe locks in the Coquina Clutch, it's over. So Reigns was fighting it really well, selling, wriggling out of it, trying to keep his chin down so Joe couldn't lock it underneath his chin. It was fantastic psychology, this matchup. Reigns finally hits a spear, which he's been trying for a few times, but they're too close to the ropes. Joe gets his foot on the ropes. Fantastic heel stuff. Reigns was almost baffled by it. So Joe rolls out to the outside to catch his breath. He slowly rolls back in. Reigns gets to the corner, starts hulking up for the spear, if you like. Starts trying to pump himself up, the old sort of thing he does, shaking the head. And then you start hearing this beep, 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 beep. What's that? Well, cuts to the big screen, and there's an ambulance backstage reversing, and Reigns looks up at the big screen, and he's sort of confused as to what's going on. Bear in mind, Joe's slowly getting up in the corner. And the ambulance stops, and the doors burst open. Braun Strowman is here. He's back 6 months out. My arse. He's only been out for not even 2 months. He was back with a vengeance. He looked great. I think he just lives in his ring gear because that's all he ever seems to wear. But out he comes, and the crowd pop. Absolutely. Roman Reigns' face is in shock. He stands up, he looks at the big screen, he's leaning against the ropes, and Samoa Joe sneaks up behind him, locks in the Coquina Clutch. Reigns sells it so well, he's wriggling like a badass, he's trying to get out of it, he almost does. Joe's grip almost slips, he has to lock it in tight. Absolutely fantastic stuff by Reigns, slowly fading, and Reigns passes out. Joe gets the win by submission. Fantastic. Both guys look great. And Joe gets the win, which is great going into the Brock Lesnar match at Great Balls of Fire. We then have Braun Strowman coming to the ring. Roman Reigns is flat on his face after being passed out. Braun grabs a microphone and says the great words of past time, in case you've forgotten, I'm not finished with you. So he picks him up in what I call the inverted chokeslam, because he picks him up at the back of the hip and the neck rather than the front. Slams him down, grabs the mic again, and he says, if you're man enough, I will see you at Great Balls of Fire in an ambulance match. I'm absolutely looking forward to that. Those two guys tore the house down last time they went toe to toe. A great feud there, and I really do hope that Braun can go on to SummerSlam and face Brock. I would really like to see that, but I would like to see the two of them face off at some point, I think. But if Reigns is going to go into SummerSlam, I think we might see Roman Reigns go over on that one, which is a shame. But looking forward to the next couple of weeks of build before we get there, and it should be good. So we'll move on to the next segment. That was a quite dragged out one. Apologies for that, but it was fantastic. Great to watch. Great job, WWE. So we saw the Miz earlier on, and this sort of builds into that segment a little bit. We get Miz TV with special guest being Maurice. Michael Cole drills across that Miz is in the doghouse after ruining the party that Maurice threw for him and the big grandfather clock and stuff like that. So out comes Maurice. Miz has her best champagne on hand. He has two of the Bears, of course, have been involved in the last couple of weeks. In the ring with signs saying "Forgive me, I'm sorry." Blah blah blah. He also has the big red box gift that he kind of had a couple of weeks back, and it is the grandfather clock. And he states this very, very funny thing that when he's been sleeping on the couch the last couple of weeks, he's actually been in the garage fixing the grandfather clock, looking up YouTube videos on how to fix it. It's fantastic work, really. Got a bit of backstory to it as well. Lets the crowd buy in. So Maurice begins to come round and realise how much he loves her, and he's doing all this for her. Dean Ambrose, out he comes, the lunatic. Loving his new t-shirt, by the way, looks fantastic. Of course, he has been a bit comedy character booked, and he's a bit of a change, but you know, he still sells merchandise. The kids still love him. They're not going to change him all that too soon. They'll wait until the chance really does come up. So out he comes. Goes in there, almost goes face to face with the Miz, who pulls Maurice in front of him. But of course, she has the champagne in hand, so she spills the champagne all over herself. Turns into a real comedy segment. She gets absolutely raging again. She moves out the way. The Miz goes to run at Dean Ambrose, who sidesteps, and the Miz runs right into the grandfather clock that he'd spent so much time fixing. Breaks it once again. The crowd laughing. Ambrose is like, oops, you know. Two bears are sort of cuddled up in the corner. It's all very, very funny. Maurice storms out. The Miz gets up, goes for Ambrose. Ambrose goes for the dirty deeds with a kick to the gut that was about 6 inches away. Goes for the dirty deeds. Miz slips out and he gets clotheslined over the top. And then Ambrose is standing staring at Miz, who's on the rampway, and the two bears come up behind Ambrose, and attack him. And Michael Cole's like, "Oh my God, look at the two bears!" They're beating him up, and then the heads come off, and it's Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel from earlier who've decided to align themselves with the Miz. The Miz gets back in, they beat on him a little bit, skull crushing finale, and they stand tall, and Miz with the title. So we'll look forward to see where that goes next week. But looks like Miz has got some backup now, which she's been trying to get a hold of the last couple of weeks. So I'm interested to see that. It's good to see Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel with something to go for on a weekly basis now. Still got a couple of segments left to go, so we'll get through them as quickly as we can. We had Sheamus and Cesaro versus Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews, the Titus brand, of course. Basic tag match. Jeff and Matt are watching backstage, similar to what Sheamus and Cesaro were doing, scouting their opponents, if you like. Sheamus and Cesaro control the match. Pretty basic. The heels control the match early on. Hot tag to Titus. The crowd are pretty bland about it. They don't care. The whole Titus was trying to get him to clap. He gets tagged in. There's literally zero pop. Sometimes, there's at least a light pop, but there was nothing at all. It's just it's a shame because Titus, he's so good on the mic, but he doesn't have to be in the ring. And I think if you can appoint a few more guys as part of the Titus brand and maybe hopefully get some titles on board and stuff like that, it could be something not to mess with. Apollo's fantastic in the ring. He lacks character, so I think the two of them bouncing off each other might help. But it's a work in progress. They throw Cesaro around when he comes in. Titus does. Which is impressive, but the crowd again just don't react, and it kind of falls on deaf ears. Apollo then gets a blind tag in, near fall after a standing moonsault, was he actually lands on his legs, but we'll move on from that. Apollo falls onto the middle rope. Sheamus distracts the referee while Cesaro hits the European uppercut, and then they go for the sort of double team finisher, which they've been doing, which I'm not really sure what they're calling it. It's like a sort of Celtic cross with Cesaro coming off the top. It's a bit like New Day's sort of big ending thing. Pretty standard, but yeah, get the 1, 2, 3, standard win for the champions, and we'll move on to next week. Now we've got the women's segment up next. It was really forgettable, really hectic. I didn't get it all written down. I didn't care enough to write it all down. It was all a bit of a mishmash. Nobody won on it. It was very much a pretty daft segment, but they didn't have anything for them this week. I mean, this is the first time they've been on the show this week, so it's right before the final segment. So it was supposed to be Nia Jax versus Sasha Banks. Pretty standard start to a matchup for those two. They've faced off several times in the past. Alexa Bliss comes out. She wants to do commentary, but then Emma sneaks up behind her while she's on commentary and says, "Oh, you want to walk out on me?" Obviously what happened last week when Alexa Bliss walked out on her team. So Alexa pushes Emma into Booker, and then she runs away into the ring and hides behind Nia Jax. Emma, of course, in pursuit. And then Nia's like confused because obviously she's mid-match and Emma's there facing her with Alexa hiding behind her. She then moves Alexa in front of her as if to say, "No, you handle this." So Emma goes at her to kick her in the gut. Alexa Bliss sidesteps and Nia takes the kick to the gut. And then, of course, DQ. Nia Jax wins, and then she wipes out Emma. And then Sasha Banks gets involved, and it's all very confusing because Alexa Bliss and Emma then jump Sasha Banks, and then we had Dana Brooke and Mickie James come down to even the odds a little bit, and then Nia Jax gets in and she sort of clears house a little bit, and then Bayley comes down and then she clears house, and then the faces are standing tall. It's very, very confusing, very, very daft. First time for a while though, Bayley's looked anywhere near strong. Obviously since a build up to a title match and then losing the title, and the match with the kendo stick on a pole. It's a shame for Bayley, but the women's division in Raw is not looking great at the minute. It's looking a bit treading water. It's not really going anywhere. Alexa's not looking as strong as she could do or she did on SmackDown. So we'll move on to the final segment. So guys, it's time to find out who attacked Enzo and Cass. It's been a very intriguing segment, something a bit different, something about an actual story that I've been enjoying, which, most of the time it's all about matches, but the whole backstage stuff has actually been quite refreshing. So Kurt Angle comes out, obviously he promised he would solve the mystery earlier in the night, so he welcomes out Enzo and Cass, and also asks Big Show and the Revival to come out and join them as they are prime suspects. Starts off asking Big Show, did you attack them? Because Big Cass had claimed that it felt like a really powerful punch in the back of his head that only the Big Show could deliver. Big Show pretty much says, it's written on your t-shirts, you're both soft, and he wouldn't come at them from behind, he would come at them from the front. And he said this amazing line to Big Cass, which was quite disrespectful, but very, very good from an old-time vet. He said, he said, "Don't look at me, kid, as if you want some, because you'll get more than you can handle." Kid, wow, solo on Big Show. But then he also says if Kurt thinks he would do that, then he won't need to be on his show anymore, pretty much because him and Kurt go way back and used to be on the road and stuff. He felt quite disrespected that Kurt was even asking if he would do such a thing, and Big Show walks out. Big Cass says, I had a lump the size of a baseball in the back of my head, and then that's what the EMTs told him apparently. So we move on. The Revival are there. Of course, the baseball thing comes into play a little bit later on, so keep that in mind. The Revival are there, but Kurt Angle has already said that their alibi checks out after asking all referees and backstage officials and stuff like that. So they are then out of the fray. But just as you're getting to sort of that dead end feeling that he's not found anything, Corey Graves picks up with a microphone up at the commentary desk, and he says he's spoken to the medical staff at the WWE, and Big Cass was not assessed after being knocked out and having that baseball-sized lump, quote unquote. So Cass then says it was a local EMT team that helped him, not the WWE medical staff, and then so they kind of have a bit of back and forth about stuff. And then Corey Graves says, "Well, I've got some security footage that you might want to see, and it'll open everyone's eyes about what happened." So it was pretty damn good. It shows basically Big Cass staging that he'd been attacked. He lies down on the floor. He covers his head and stuff like that. He's sort of creeping around first to make sure nobody's watching, and then down he goes. Fantastic stuff. Very, very well worked. And then Corey Graves simply puts it to Big Cass, "You attacked Enzo." There's a bit of a delay as Enzo's looking at Big Cass and he just roars, "You're damn right I did it!" And the crowd are like, "Oh my god!" And everyone's a little bit, but a lot of people did see it coming, but it was still very, very well delivered. And then Cass cuts this massive promo. I won't go into quotes and stuff like that, but it was absolutely fantastic. I do think you should check it out. He so passionate. You have any idea what it's like to work alongside you and to team up with you, Enzo? You just run your mouth at everyone, and I have to clean up the pieces. You're dragging me down. You're stopping me from the potential I can reach, the star I can be. It was fantastic stuff. And Cass simply says, "We're through." He hits him with a big boot and leaves, and he gets a lot of heat actually. The crowd boo him, and it was a fantastic segment. A lot of people may have thought I went a little bit too long, but it was great to close the show and find out what happened during that. A lot of people had their suspicions on that, but it was very, very good. And the show in general, I thought was very, very good this week. Last couple of weeks, Raw has been my weaker show between the two of SmackDown and Raw. Very, very good segments this week. Great match between Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns. Great psychology in it. Missing moves. They read each other so well. Great stuff. So hoping to do SmackDown again tomorrow. And hopefully you will all tune in and listen to that. This is just a pilot episode. We want to see how this goes and how well we can come across with our wrestling knowledge and stuff like that. I won't be the only person doing these weekly reviews, but this is just a start, and I hope if you enjoy it, you give us a follow, a like, and a subscribe. Alright, thanks very much. I've been Mark here with Legit Wrestling. Thanks very much for listening. Goodbye.